수많은 별들과 약속했던 모든 꿈들은 언젠간 이루어진다고 믿어. 땀과 이 눈물과 소중한 사랑만 있다면 우린 무엇이든 해낼 수 있어. Once in a lifetime, fly to the star. 별들이 너의 꿈을 지켜줄 거야. Once in your lifetime, 우리 그날 위해 영원히 함께 만들어가야. Love for your dream.
March 24th, 1998, SM Entertainment debuted 6 relatively unknown trainees, Eric, Minwoo, Dongwon, Junjin, Heesung, and Andy, under the name Shinhwa, meaning myth or legend. A bold name, especially for a group whose first album, Resolver, struggled to gain traction. It barely made a dent on the charts, received little attention from the public, and left almost no mark on the industry. In an era when underperforming groups were often dropped without warning, Shinhwa seemed like a short-lived project. But behind that debut was more than a rollout. It was 6 people who had no idea what was waiting for them. There was pressure from the company, competition from other rookies, and a debut song that failed to connect. Still, they kept showing up. They practiced harder. They learned the stage together. Even when the schedule was brutal, even when no one cheered, that early mindset, learning from defeat rather than running from it, quietly laid the foundation for everything that followed. It was their first lesson in longevity, perseverance when most would have quit. They survived their first failure, but that was just the beginning. They still had to figure out who they really were. Shinhwa's second album, T.O.P, Twinkling of Paradise, changed the game. The title track became a hit, giving the group their first real traction. And as their fame grew, they started asking for more, over styling, choreography, concepts. They're learning how to fight for themselves. They understood that survival in K-pop required more than popularity. It required control, and they were ready to claim it. Finding their voice gave them confidence, but testing the system required something else: the courage to walk away. In 2003, Shinhwa's contracts with SM Entertainment expired. Most idols at the time either quietly renewed or faded away. Shinhwa did neither. They wanted creative freedom, ownership of their name, and a better future. SM wasn't willing to give it, so they left. They signed with Good Entertainment and later formed their own label, Shinhwa Company. It was unheard of, idols taking control of their brand, their business, their legacy, and somehow they pulled it off. In doing so, they didn't just secure their future. They rewrote the rulebook for every group that came after. Leaving SM Entertainment gave them freedom. But freedom came with new challenges, especially when real life stepped in. Mandatory enlistment can break even the most successful groups. Members go one by one, years apart. The momentum fades. The industry moves on. But Shinhwa took a different route. They didn't fight the system. They planned for it. Each member focused on solo work while the others served. Eric went into acting. Minwoo built a solo career. Dongwon thrived in musicals. The rest took over variety shows, drama, music, all while holding space for the group to return. They didn't rush a comeback. They trusted the wait, trusted each other, trusted their fans. Years apart didn't weaken them. If anything, it made them sharper. And when they returned, they didn't just pick up where they left off. They pushed even further. In 2012, they dropped the return. It had been nearly 4 years since they stood together on stage. Expectations were low, but the album hit #1. Concerts sold out. Fans came back fast. The industry took notice, and instead of trying to act like the same idols from 1998, they owned who they had become. The music was more refined. The performances were grounded. Even fans noticed that they had evolved. It was more than a comeback. It was proof that they had outlasted the expiration date. Their comeback proved they still had impact. But staying relevant in a changing industry meant learning to evolve. again. Shinhwa didn't stay stuck in time. While other legacy groups leaned on nostalgia, they kept adapting. Their 20th anniversary album, Shinhwa 20, dropped new music, not just compilations. They reworked classics like All Your Dreams while exploring new sounds in Touch and She Said. They adjusted with the times, but never looked desperate doing it, and that decision to reinvent what they had created proves they had what it takes to stay. But reinvention didn't stop at business or image. It ran through the music, every single time. Shinhwa's evolution is mapped through sound. Every comeback brought a shift, not just in style, but in intention. The early years leaned into late 90s R&B and synth pop. Songs like T.O.P. and Only One. These songs were bold, theatrical, built for live stages with sharp choreography and layered vocals. Then came Perfect Man and Wedding. Tighter production, smoother performance, a cleaner image backed by more refined execution. By Brand New, they were in full control. Minwoo in particular stepped into the songwriting and production role, a shift that showed the group wasn't just performing music, they were now shaping it. It was their first major release after leaving SM Entertainment, and that was how they became the first artist to win #1 on Music Bank after changing agency. Later eras brought sharper changes. This Love introduced minimalist synths and unexpected voguing choreography. Sniper turned cold, exact, and atmospheric. And Touch? It slowed things down, focusing on tension and restraint. Music shaped by maturity, not momentum. The sound changed, but the identity didn't, and that's why the music still holds. Hits like Hey Come On, Wild Eyes, How Do I Say, and Once in a Lifetime marked each turning point, not just as chart toppers, but as cultural anchors fans still remember. Every era had a track that stuck, and even now, those songs hit different, not because they're old, but because they were built to last. This was the sound of a group that kept moving forward, even when no one expected them to. And it's why their music, like their name, still echoes. That kind of consistency didn't happen by chance. It was built on a formula, one crafted over decades. After forming Shinhwa Company, the group gained legal control as well as practical control. For the first time, they didn't need approval from outsiders to choose songs, plan comebacks, or design their image. Everything ran through them. They split responsibilities to each members. It became a working system, built from scratch, and it worked because everyone knew what they were fighting to protect. The company also handled rights, merch, and music releases. Owning the Shinhwa name meant they could perform their old hits, repackage classics, and profit from their legacy. Something most idols never got the chance to do. They took control early. They let members grow outside the group without tearing it apart. And they made every decision with a 10-year mindset, a long-term mindset. Most groups are built for speed. Shinhwa moved with patience. Even with all the pieces in place, longevity wasn't guaranteed. What mattered more was the legacy they kept building. At 27 years in, Shinhwa could have faded quietly or cashed in on the nostalgia wave. But they didn't. They kept releasing, kept evolving, kept showing up. They proved that K-pop doesn't have to be disposable, that fans can grow with artists, that even in a fast-moving industry, some things can last. And while the group's pace has slowed, the identity hasn't. After everything, every risk, every change, every return, they were still standing, not by accident, but by choice. Their longevity wasn't luck, it was hard work. They didn't survive by being the loudest, the trendiest, or the most viral. They lasted by showing up again and again, when most would have walked away. They had every reason to stop, but they didn't. They adjusted, they disagreed, they figured it out, together. There was no model for what a decades-old K-pop group should look like. So Shinhwa became the model, quietly, consistently, without needing to prove anything anymore. No farewell tours, no perfect endings. Just 6 men who kept showing up, because what they built was still worth protecting. They never promised forever. They just never stopped earning it. Shinhwa dared to be bold. Will you?